Ford Advanced Insider Football is back on 1029 The Game, Culture Sports Digital Network. And we are on YouTube this week. Kevin, Midgette, and I taping this great show. We are excited. And Kevin, how you doing, man? It's almost game time.
Lloyd, let me put it to you this way. I'm a larger man that lives in the mid-Atlantic in August. I hate heat. I hate the hot weather. I didn't like it when I was in better shape and younger. So let's get football going because I know the cooler breeze is coming with it. So yeah, man, it's happening right now. You got that one more game that nobody cares about, and then we're on.
Yeah, it's crazy because the Phillies have gotten hot and a lot of people are excited about them. I still don't know. I still think the big bad Dodgers or maybe the Braves or somebody's waiting for them. And baseball's still around, but it's turning the page to the football time around the NFL and NFL cities, and everybody's excited in terms of this will be the 107th season of the National Football League. It's America's passion, it's America's obsession. One of the main things, and we'll talk about all the time, is the gambling aspect. Everybody's starting to get ready for their survivor pools and, their weekly parlays, but also fantasy football. How is Kevin doing and how many teams is he going to have this season?
Well, like I said, I love all my teams like they're my children. I'll foster them all through the season. My big money league draft, though, is a week from today. So I'm still sitting here like going through everything. And it turns out guys I liked the first couple drafts I did, I don't like now. And it's just this gradual process, like all of a sudden the new hot guy becomes. And the thing is, you read so much information, you're inundated with it. It's like for example, I'll put like one guy's posting about the New York Giants. You have to take all three. You got to take Dart, Neighbors, Scattaboo. And then I read another one. Stay away from all the Giants. Stay away from Neighbors, Dart, Scattaboo. So I mean, everyone's got a different thing, and literally when you're in the moment, it's who falls to you and gut instinct.
Kevin, it's interesting that you would bring up the Giants because, the trepidation around this time of year and picking your fantasy football team and your team in general getting ready for the regular season is injuries. I mean, the injuries are just everywhere. They're creeping up all around the National Football League. One of the bigger ones was with the Giants. Calvin Austin, a receiver that they brought over from Pittsburgh, he had an ACL, so he's out for the season. And you're just seeing more and more guys going down. I mean, is it the lack of OTAs? I mean, I don't think they're working them too hard. What is going on in terms of these guys dropping like flies and not possibly being ready for week one?
I think it's the nature of freak injuries. Sometimes it just happens. Once again, I always try to cite the Teddy Bridgewater just jogging by himself when he was with Minnesota and blew his ACL out. I mean, you look at it right now, like you mentioned Austin, but you have Higgins from the Texans who went down. He's out for the season. You have Tyson, the young kid from New Orleans. It's just like he might be back on the back end, but you don't know. But it's all these freak injuries, man. That's why I try to push the money league draft till after the preseason. Try to get my better odds.
Crazy. Nate is my commissioner in our league, and we had our draft a couple weeks ago, and he's been bit in the butt already. About three or four of his guys are already injured and hurt, and it's just like, what is going on here? And it's like, all right, let the real games begin because, as you were saying, preseason week three is coming up. The Eagles will host the Bengals. I really don't think anybody's going to be out there for either team. I've already been offered tickets to the game, me and my sons, and I said, no, not worth the price of parking. I
Yeah,
mean, would you possibly go to a week three preseason game?
absolutely not. I mean, I don't know with the Bengals though. They keep putting Burrow out there and everything else. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. A guy who's been as injury plagued as that guy has, they played him in preseason one snap. It baffles me to be honest. But you're right on that, man. Think about it. You just pay for parking. Not even if you get a beer, you buy a bottle of water or something like that, and you're like $60 deep already.
It's just not worth it. And cut down day will be on August 30th shortly, and I think that's Sunday night. And it's you're going to see a lot of these guys on the street because every team has 90 men on a roster, and with cut down day coming, you're going to see a lot of dreams, and it's always the big hard knocks thing, the Turk coming around, coach want to see you. Now it's bring your iPad instead of your playbook.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it you hate to see somebody's dream stepped on, but with 90 guys on a roster, it's just like, man, you know, most of these guys, you're just not going to see them.
Nah, not at all. And that's why you have like the other leagues now you can go to. You know, you can play overseas, you can play all kind of UFL, you can do all kinds of things. I mean, if you want to just extend it for a little bit, but I mean, the odds against you making an NFL roster coming out, especially if you're drafted anywhere after the third round, I mean, it's highly unlikely.
And most of these teams, I kind of always tell people, I'm like, all right, there's 53-man roster, probably about 45 of the players are already decided, as they're going into this last preseason game last week of the season. They may even be keeping some of those spots open for guys on other teams that are cut you know, then they'll start jockeying for the practice squad. Now they have extended the practice squad. I think it's up to 16 players now that they can have on a practice squad. And that gives them a chance to be on an NFL roster to practice. But, it is so tough going from that unknown guy to being an NFL player, let alone a starter. Think about way back in the day, one of our favorite guys, Andre Dirty Waters, coming from Cheney State, is an undrafted free agent. He made his way in training camp and made the team, and then became a starter.
Yeah, it was just different then. I mean, they didn't have back then the access that they do today. They didn't have the scouts, the amount of scouts they have. I mean, by the time these guys now they're getting looked at, I mean, they've been picked over and looked over frontwards, backwards, sideways. Back then, it's like you gambled on some guys sometimes. And I tell you what, it back then or even today, you better hit someone on special teams if you want to make a roster.
That's so key. You talk about Andre Waters and guys like him, undrafted guys. You have to make your bones on special teams, returning kicks or covering punts or kickoffs and getting the coach's eye. And a lot of times when I do watch Hard Knocks, that last episode when they're cutting guys, they always talk about the special teams coach comes on there and say, look, I need this guy. He may be a fourth running back, but he's able to get down there and make some plays and he's a great special teams guy, and good for them. You see a guy like Steve Tasker, borderline Hall of Fame from Buffalo Bills way back in the day. He comes out of Northwestern, smallest receiver, probably not going to make the team as a receiver, but just a demon on special teams, and that's what it takes. So we'll see around August 30th who's going to be cut and if teams are going to make some trades or not. Wanted to get your take though on a player everybody's talking about in terms of cut. Anthony Richardson, the backup quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, former high draft pick, just not a very good quarterback. Is he going to make the Colts this year?
He's a bum, Lloyd. He's a bum. He's a high drafted bum. The thing is, even if he doesn't make the Colts roster, he will be on a roster this year just for where he was chosen in the draft. So, I mean, he's going to be in the NFL this year. Will it be with the Colts? I don't know. But all in all, he's a bum.
I have to agree with you, and I think Shane Steichen, a coach on a hot seat, he's going to need that roster spot for somebody that's going to make a difference. So Anthony Richardson, they're counting on Daniel Jones and the rest of those backups there. I just don't see him getting another chance, and he's going to go down as one of the biggest busts in terms of quarterback position and where he was drafted. And we'll see where they go from there. Also, this week in preseason, you had teams kind of practicing with each other. I think we talked, maybe or not, the Eagles practice with the Patriots, and people were talking about, oh, Jalen Hurts missed this throw, and they jumped it and there were interceptions. Should people give a darn about these joint practices?
No, not at all. It's like people like say where I work, people want to talk about, especially Steeler fans, Will Howard, blah, blah, blah. Then Will Howard throws two picks. But it's like at the end of the day, I tell them it's like, look at the injury report. I don't care about the score. I don't care how the player looked in the game. It's like anyone going on the golf course, the batting cage, a shoot around, it's like, you're just kind of loosening up. I mean, this isn't real. But it's like, I just look at the injury report. Did anyone get hurt? No. All right, that's a win.
And that's the key with these preseason games. Yeah, coming out healthy. Maybe there's some positional battles here and there, but I think everything's pretty much decided even before these joint practices or these games. Now, every once in a while, you get a good story though. A guy making a roster. We talk about an undrafted guy like Willie Lampkin. he's the backup center for the Philadelphia Eagles. He played really well. Undersized guy. I watched him, former high school wrestling champion, and they're talking about him possibly making a roster. I mean, that's the type of story you'd like coming out of training camp. But too often it's all preordained because wherever a guy's drafted and whether he has an alliance to a coach.
That's exactly it. And I don't know. It's like we were alluding to earlier. It's like I just think with all the research they do and how much they delve into these guys, they don't really create the wiggle room like they did back in the day. Back in the day, when somebody got drafted, they were in camp. The coaches, staff was still trying to figure them out. As opposed to today, they kind of know what they got coming in the door as soon as they walk in.
And they're also going to probably baby those first round draft picks now a lot less than they used to. Back they used to have to prove it. I still remember, following all those Buddy Ryan camps when I was a kid, and you all got to prove it. I don't care where you came from. I don't care if you came from, a community college or where you were selling insurance. If you can play, you can play. So, we're going to see. But I'm just glad for the real games to finally get here. And we know it's a crazy start, Kevin. They're going to start on a Wednesday night in Australia, and then there's a game Thursday and the Sunday. Is it too much? Should they just try to concentrate and get it, maybe just one Thursday and then every game Sunday?
They're pushing it. It's starting to get a little like, all right, pull it back a little bit. Like the Wednesday game is on NBC, I believe. And then Thursday, you got Netflix Thursday. So you're already, making people go to the streaming channels. And they're doing a lot of streaming. And I think that's where they're alienating their fan base more than anything because they're going to put extra games on. But at the same time, you got to have the streaming network to view them. So I think that's where they're doing their fan base a disservice.
Sometimes you get a little too greedy, and I think a big thing, Kevin, is they are setting everything up to have an international team. Roger Goodell was recently interviewed, and he said it's just a matter of time before they place a team in Germany, in London, England, or Canada or New Mexico City. Do you think it's going to happen, Kevin, in the next 5 years?
If it happened anywhere, I think the play would be Mexico City. I think they've been playing football there long enough. I don't think Canada is going to work. I don't think overseas just travel logistics. I mean, there's a very unfair thing going on. What are you going to give the team in Germany a 4-game homestand and then send them on the road for 4 weeks? They're not flying back and forth to the practice facility. So I think Mexico City, if there was going to be one that happens, but I'll go no. I still say no in 5 years.
I agree with you. I think the logistics are just such a nightmare in terms of traveling and scheduling. Every team may have to have 2 buys, or I just don't know how it's going to work. And yes, I know the Roger Goodell and the NFL owners want that money, but sometimes you got to say, okay, pump the brakes a little bit. And speaking of the NFL owners, wanted to get Kevin's take on this, and he loves some TMZ just as much as he loves the National Football League. Niners owner Jed York caught in an Ohio trailer park. Not even a legend anymore. He pled guilty. He solicited. And I heard it was only for $140. That's not a Las Vegas high-end girl. What's going on here, Kevin?
Yes, I do love me some TMZ Sports Tea. I was all over this one. I appreciate you lobbing this one over to me. Give me a 45-second rant, if you will. All right, so Mr. York, who's from the area, mind you, married with 2 kids, billionaire, right? He sits there and decides to get an escort. Once again, not my life. I'm not judging that part. Would I do it? No, but that's not, I'm not him, so I'm not judging that part. This guy's a billionaire, right? Go back to Mr. Robert Kraft with the New England Patriots, another billionaire. What's he end up getting busted for? Going to a strip club, or not strip club, I'm sorry, strip mall, happy ending facility for full release with it not being too blue here. So once again, billionaire going for the frugal deal here, So once again, Mr. York for San Francisco, another billionaire. Get an escort for $5,000 to $10,000. Have them sign an NDA so nothing can be said. No, I'm going to sit there. He pinged this person once, twice, thrice three times, and it was a cop. He thought it was a prostitute. Gets busted by a trailer park. And I'm sorry, Lloyd, it was $160. He came up an extra 20
Oh,
bucks.
sorry.
He came up an extra 20 bucks. You know what you get for 160 bucks? An STD that's going to be with you the rest of your life. That's what you get for 160 bucks. I am baffled that the billionaires are this cheap when it comes to this matter.
Then it's just crazy. And much like Robert Kraft's situation, I'm sure the NFL will try to sweep it under the rug and, you know, much ado about nothing. But hey, everyone's watching. And when you're disciplining players, for different misconduct things, they're going to be like, okay, well, what's going to happen with York? Is he going to be suspended? Is he going to be fined? I think in the end, maybe they'll treat him like the former owner of the Colts, Ursay. He got suspended for a little bit for his DUI and drug use. So, what do you think is going to happen here with York in terms of NFL and discipline?
I mean, what can you really do? It's kind of like the guy owns the majority of the team. He's a very wealthy man. You're not going to take the team from him. And I mean, the only time I remember a team getting taken from an owner was what Ballmer with the Los Angeles Clippers because the guy was just a huge racist. You know, for trying to get a prostitute, you're not going to lose your team. And I don't know what they can do, Lloyd. I mean, do you take a draft pick from him for being a perv? I don't know what you do with
No.
this
Yeah,
situation.
maybe so. Something's going to happen. But it's just like, wow. And I know the National Football League and Goodell, they're like, oh man, we really didn't need this at this time. And it's crazy. They just had the owners' meetings. And can you imagine Jed York walking in that room with Jerry Jones and all the guys? And they're like, hey, next time I'll give you a number. Okay. Call this number. You're good. You know what I mean? Don't elicit it online. And I'm sure there was drinking involved and some bad judgment by Mr. York.
Well, that's the whole thing too. I mean, Jerry got busted trying to bring a gun onto an airplane before, and it's like, do these guys give him the secret handshake now? You got pinched. It's like Goodfellas. You got pinched for the first time. They hug him and welcome him into the club. I don't know, man.
That's crazy. Speaking of in the club, not in the club, everybody's so happy and excited about this, Kevin. No more Pro Bowl. They finally decided not to have the Pro Bowl games and none of this foolishness. Players are going to be named, honored. That's it. I've been saying this for years. What is the point? They bring all these guys to Hawaii or Orlando, Las Vegas, spending all that money on a game nobody gives a crap about.
I mean, I like yourself. I've been on the wagon of treat it like a Gold Glove in baseball. It's an accolade. You get it. You put it on your resume. You get an award for it. But other than that, nah, man, it's a waste of time. Nobody cares. It like literally, you're once again freak accident injury could happen at that point. So why even be out there? And the guys who go first team, half of them don't even go. So you get like once again, Shadur Sanders was a Pro Bowler last year because no one wanted to go to the damn game. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, he's a Pro Bowler according to Nate, and
Oh
the
God.
best quarterback around, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's worthy of award. Give me a break. It's like why even have it? All the alternates are there. I'm just so glad it's gone, and they'll find different programming around the National Football League. So another big thing, Kevin. Now we're talking about cuts. Is what is going on? The NFL, well, and college football, they had to spring into action this week because guys that were getting cut, namely Daquan Wright, a tight end from the Browns, and Saints defensive tackle Xavier Harris, they got some judge down in Louisiana to grant them a fifth year of eligibility. So they're trying to go back from the NFL back to college. I mean, should this be allowed? And we're seeing the conferences have uh, meetings and coming out with statements that they're not going to allow this. I mean, how's this going to play out?
You can't let it happen. You absolutely cannot because it's going to get out of hand. People are going to go there just to see if they can make a roster. If they can't, it's like, oh, I'll go back to college. At the same time, the college has probably already filled their position. And this one kid who signed there as a freshman to go, it's like, oh, I'm going to get to play. Or the sophomore that's been there the year before, all of a sudden their career gets pushed back another year if they get to play at all. No, you're a big adult at this point. You chose to try and be in the NFL. That's where you're at this point. If you didn't make it, that's on you.
And you sign a contract, it's a done deal. It used to be you sign a contract with an agent. Well, now there's kids in high school that have agents. So it's just like I don't know what's going on here, but they did spring into action. The Big Ten as well as SEC, the Big 12, all of them came out and said this is not going to be allowed. So once you go to NFL, you're not going to be able to come back now. We'll see about this injunction that this judge in Louisiana has. Particularly, it's LSU and Lane Kiffin, who's the head coach at LSU. He's trying to get some of his guys on the cheap after NFL um, experience. But I think in the end, what you're going to see is everyone say, you sign a deal, you're done. Now, the NFL said these guys, they won't be welcome back in 2026. And then when in the draft comes around in 2027, they'll be free agents. So it's just like, it's just Pandora's box. It's a mess. I know they've gotten Congress involved in terms of it's going to be 5 years for everybody going forward, but this is a loophole situation.
Just want to point out to the fact I've never been a Lane Kiffin guy. So anything this guy does, I mean, he just to me it seems like he's a carpetbagger in the Jim Calipari kind of way back in the day. It's like if I shook hands with him, I'd want to wash my hands kind of afterwards. I'm not believing anything this guy says. They have to get on this because we saw what happened with the NIL money when it first started. I mean, do I think they deserve some payment and some compensation rather? Yes. You're at the point now that cow's out of the barn. Now it's huge, and it's just like they can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So they have to be very careful with how they handle this.
NCAA, I've never been a big fan of them and how they're legislating this. It's really coming down to conference rights, and it's all around football and basketball. It's a lot of mince words around, and nobody's really caring about if a swimmer is getting a 6 year eligibility or
Yeah.
anything like that. So it's like, all right, figure this thing out, get it done, and that's why a lot of times I just can't. There's just too much in college football swirling around it, and bending of the rules that it's just like, all right, enough's enough. So we'll see how this goes. I tend to think these guys will be allowed to play this season. There's only about 16 of them, and then they'll close this loophole. But it's just a mess. It should not be allowed. Speaking of getting ready for the new season, Kevin, we got to talk about coaches on the hot seat here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network, and YouTube. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. Coaches on the hot seat. I'll just name a couple situations and you kind of chime in. The Indianapolis Colts. Now Shane Steichen, he's been there for a number of years. Gannon went to the Cardinals. He went to the Colts after the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. They were the great coordinators. But I just think the bullseye's on them because Carly Ursay Gordon has taken over team from her deceased father, and she has her fingerprints all over. She even has a headset on the sideline. So she's got her eyes on Steichen and the GM there, Chris Ballard. So what do you think about Steichen being on hot seat?
I think things are looking better for Steichen right now than they did maybe a week or two ago because apparently Daniel Jones is in line to be ready to go. Alec Pierce came off the pup list today, so you might have him ready to go. You have Taylor there. I mean, you got to remember, we go back to mid-October of last year. We were talking about early calling MVPs, who's in the running. Daniel Jones was one of those guys, like he was amazing those first like month and a half, mind you, before he got hurt and banged up. So I mean, he's got something to work with in a good division, but not overpowering division. But yeah, he's one of those guys. Yeah, I give him hot seat.
And the thing is, you're right. They started electrically last year. You remember they were the biggest story around the National Football League. Daniel Jones tearing up before he had the Achilles injury, and unfortunately limped home. They had 7 game losing streak to end the season. So it was a tough go for them, and they're trying to pick up the pieces. But I just think Steichen's been there, I guess, 3-4 years now. He changed his defensive coordinator, Lou Anamarano's there, coming over from the Bengals. He really hasn't gotten it done. That defensive unit allowed 27 points per game. I'm sorry, 24 points per game. They only scored about 27 per game. So they have a fifth easiest schedule this year. It's now or never, and it's a bad division. So they should be in the mix with the Houston Texans. If not, yes, I think he's going to. Shane Steichen will be on the hot seat. The next one's kind of low hanging fruit, Kevin. I mean, everybody's like, yeah, Lloyd, we knew this. Aaron Glenn with the New York Jets. We were surprised he actually survived coming back this season. I mean, is there any argument there that he is on a hot seat?
Aaron Glenn's not buying green bananas for the office. He's not going to be there for when they're right, man. I'm shocked he's back this year. But hey, at least I gave him Geno Smith there to keep that offense flowing. So I mean, and then once again, going back to fantasy, I'm not touching anyone on the Jets because I actually had Garrett Wilson last year, and they couldn't get him the ball. And it's like Brees Hall. He had an okay year. He's over 1,000 yards, that kind of thing. And who's a kid they drafted? They drafted Sadiq at tight end. He's coming off a hernia injury, I believe. And who's the other kid they drafted? Copper, the wide receiver as well. So I mean, they tried to put some pieces there, but can Geno Smith, help that out?
And it's just like they've invested a lot in the offensive line with Fasanu and some of these other guys that they brought in, but I just think it's a lot of band-aids on a gaping wound. They're just such a bad team, bad franchise. We know they haven't been to the playoffs, probably the longest drought in the National Football League. And Woody Johnson, the owner there, is getting impatient, and it's just like I just don't see something changing. Now I do believe that they are marching for Arch, and they are kind of tanking, getting ready for next season. Them as well as Arizona Cardinals and the Miami Dolphins, who have a new head coach. So I think all eyes will be on Aaron Glenn and seeing, okay, week 6, week 7, is he still have a job? But it's not looking good for them. They tried to bring Smith and some other guys there, but their defense, they traded Quentin Williams, they Sauce Gardner away. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one for the Jets. This one's interesting because we're going to talk about division soon. Todd Bowles with the Bucks. I know Angel, who produced our show sometimes, he's down there and he's not a Bowles guy. What do you think about Todd Bowles, and is he on the hot seat?
Yeah, actually, I mean, they didn't win the division last year. What did they win it like 3 years in a row or something like that? 3 or 4 years in a row. They didn't win it last year. Nobody was basically 500 for the most part. And I mean, yeah, you put up another season under 500. I mean, with some of the talent they have there now. The one thing I like was that Ubeka now should be the number one wide receiver. You have him because Mike Evans is gone. You got rid of Rashad White, so you got Bucky Irving, who had a injury plagued season. Well, you put him there with Tucker, who's decent in spurts, and I like the acquisition of Kenny Gainwell for them also. I think Kenny Gainwell can be decent for them. But yeah, if he finishes under 500, he's gone.
And another team that limped home last year, and I think it could bleed into season 1-4 in the last 5 games. That defense, Todd Bowles is supposed to be a defensive genius. He masterminded that defense that won for Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. But the defense allowed 24 points per game, and their offense was only putting up 22 per game. So it just shows you that, there's some problems there on his side of the football. So you have Zach Robinson there at OC. He's supposed to be coming in from the Falcons, help clean this thing up. Baker Mayfield's got to have a bounce back season. He's got to get back to 40 some touchdowns, cut down those interceptions, and they have to win the close games, Kevin, and avoid injuries. That was their two biggest bugaboos last year. But I firmly believe, yes, Bowles is on hot seat. He's been there a number of years. Modicum of success, where they're winning division, but in the playoffs they're just kind of limping home. So I put him on a hot seat. Right here in my backyard and close to you, the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of people are saying Sirianni is on a hot seat. Is that just hyperbole, or what are you thinking in terms of Nick Sirianni, the genius that I like to call him? Every time he looks in the mirror, he says, "You're great."
I'm not saying it's a hot seat, but that seat's not cold either. It's got a little warmth to it because once again, Nick Sirianni, he reminds me almost of more gentle version of Ray Rhodes. And hear me out on this, because Ray Rhodes had that thing yelling in your face, or breaking into your house, or stealing this and that played well for a couple of years, and then the players tuned him out. Nick Sirianni's with his flower and planting, and you got to let it bloom and all that crap. So I mean, that kind of touchy feely stuff lasts for a couple of seasons. A Super Bowl win definitely did help, but yeah, with Patullo gone, AJ Brown gone, now you only have two of the four guys that everyone was pointing the fingers at each other. You got Sirianni, you got Jalen Hurts. things don't go right, I guarantee you they're keeping the quarterback before the head coach.
Saying because they really haven't given him that big extension, and also Jalen Hurts. You talk about him; he hasn't gotten that big extension as well, and it's just like okay. I think Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, who the brain trust of the Eagles, they're saying they're in wait and see mode, and they want to see okay, is this the team that limped home at 3-2 their last 5 games last year? They lose at home to the Niners in pitiful fashion, and it's just like what's going on here. So they want that team to be more like 2024 where they were just dominant. And let's face it, they've assembled a pretty good roster, but at some areas it's aging. So you start wondering, okay, is this going to be the right group, particularly at offensive coordinator? You have Sean Mannion coming there, never really called plays before. They're giving him the keys to the offense. Fangio's in his last season. And you had Jeff Stoutland, who was well known for their running game and offensive line. He's left the team.
Yeah, that and the whole thing is Stalin what hurts because you have an aging offensive line. Also, Lane Johnson in his last season, he's going to play this one out. They've been banged up on the offensive line also, like last season. So, I mean, you're as good as your offensive line is when on offense. If they get these guys healthy and can play, all right, you'll be all right. You got some banged up guys, then all of a sudden, Jalen's got to move around, run around a little bit, and you know how that usually plays out. So, Jalen, that's one thing about Jalen, and one of the criticisms about him, and I don't have a lot compared to most people. I really don't have a lot of criticisms of Jalen Hurts because I'm like, he just wins. He just goes out there and wins. He is so afraid since they played New Orleans at one time and he threw a pick to cost the game like a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe even at this point. He will not force a ball if he doesn't have to. He will not try to get it in there, and he'll eat it, he'll throw it away. But I'd like to see Jalen be a little more of a risk taker.
Sometimes you have to be dynamic, especially in National Football League, as a passing league first. Obviously, they're going to try to lean on Saquon Barkley, but he's approaching 30. Saquon's been in the NFL since 2018 when he was second overall pick for the Giants, and you wonder with all those touches that he had, almost 400 some touches in 2024, if that affected last season and how he's going to be going in this year. So the line, yeah, I'm going to have my eye on that is Coach Cooper's coming in, and Lane Johnson's 36, and he's already talking about retiring at the end of the year, and that's never a good thing. Coming off a Liz Frank injury, you have him. Tyler Steen's been kind of underachieving. Uh, Cam Jurgens at center was beat up last year. Landon Dickerson, Sam Ding at the guard spot, he was beat up. And Jordan Mailata, yes, everyone loves the story, the big singing cowboy from Australia and all that stuff, former rugby player. But he had a down year last year. He's got to start living up to that expectation. So a lot of pressure on that offensive line. Wanted to get your take in terms of the tight ends for the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas Clark, they brought him back on a 1-year deal, make good deal. And then Eli Stowers, who they drafted from Vanderbilt. I was talking to some guys, his second round pick, and they said he's going to be deactivated. They say he's not catching the ball, he doesn't block well. I mean, he's looking like the latest Jalen Reagor type pick for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Another thing with Stowers too, he was rated the second best tight end coming in the pros next to Sadiq for the Jets. So I mean that's disappointing to hear. Goddard you had to bring back, and that's why they went out and drafted Stowers because they knew they were bringing Goddard back for 1 year, and this guy was supposed to take the step up. I mean, you would even take Jason Dunn, L.J. Smith kind of thing, but to be deactivated, that's bad. I have one question for you, Lloyd, since we were just spitballing here. Is Saquon Barkley right now a Hall of Famer?
I think he's got to put together probably one more good season. He's getting close to 10,000, Kevin, and he's got that magic 2,000-yard season. He won a Super Bowl, so that's always a good separation tool between a Hall of Famer. But it's interesting, and we'll see how he's going to get in. But I was on Rich's show, and we were talking about guys like Tiki Barber and Eddie George. They're over the 10,000-yard mark, and they're not in. And a guy like Frank Gore, I'd like to call compiler, he's not
Mm.
in either. So they're probably going to put him in, but running back is so interesting, Kevin, because these guys, it's so demanding on their body, and you wonder, how many more of these guys are going to put up those 10,000-yard type stats and be able to be talking in that Hall of Fame breath.
Because you look at, once again, Jamal Lewis, 2,000 yards, Chris Johnson, 2,000 yards. The one back I will say I think right now is a Hall of Famer is Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry will get in as of right now because he's had the longevity of the career. But Saquon, he really, I think he needs to bang out maybe two more seasons. I'm not saying 2,000-yard seasons, but a couple 14, 1,500-yard seasons, just, throwing it out there. Eddie George isn't in, by the way. That guy, come on. He just carried
Oh,
that
Eddie
team.
George from my hometown, man. I know some of his family members and stuff.
Eddie
But
George should be in. Eddie George should be in. I think but you know how the NFL is. They make guys wait that shouldn't wait sometimes, and there's no rhyme or reason. But I think Eddie George should be in.
and when you talk about guys, let's face it, Luke Kuechly, he was borderline because he didn't play a lot of years. He just
Yeah.
got in, and you were glad to see Roger Craig get in. One of the first dual threat backs out there, thousand to thousand. But in terms of you looking at stats and numbers, uh, okay, some of these guys got better stats than him. So, yeah, we're going to see, and that was a great question, Kevin. And in terms of Saquon Barkley, we're going to see he's got to have a good year, and he was paid. He at a certain point he was the highest paid back in the National Football League. I know he's going to be passed by Jameer Gibbs and Bijan Robinson now, but they're counting on him to have a big season. And the spotlight in the hot seat is on the Philadelphia Eagles because I do believe changes are coming if this team limps home like they did at the end of last year. So we're talking teams that need to step up, players that need to step up here in Lloyd Vance Inside of Football. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. I'll give you one more. And I always talk about this one. And Rich is always Rich Q. I'm on his show a lot. He's like, yeah, yeah. Zach Taylor with the Bengals. He's been there a number of years. I know Mike Brown's the owner, and Mike Brown is cheap, and he wouldn't pay a coach, who's under contract for the next 2 years. But the Bengals' expectations are there. The Steelers probably going to take a step back with no Mike Tomlin, and I think it's the Bengals and the Ravens in the AFC North.
Yeah, I love the fact we just discount the Browns. We don't even bring them in the conversation. It's like, yeah, that team, nah, that's not a thing. Steelers, I agree with you. That's a downturn right there. The thing is, they have some wide receivers there. They just got a guy who's 50 years old, 60 years old, trying to throw the football who can't run anymore. So that's their downfall at that point. The Bengals, they'll be in the mix. The thing with the Bengals, and it always has been, how about you don't start September 0-4 or 1-3? Because how many times have you seen the Bengals, one of the hottest teams at the back end of a season? Their September starts are absolutely brutal. And as far as Baltimore goes, your number one wide receiver is still Zay Flowers. Derrick Henry, who I do believe is in the Hall of Fame. He's another year older. And your number two wide receiver, Rashad Bateman, had a great week, busting out the windows of his baby mama's car with a 3-month-old inside. So there's something coming down on him for that. And you have Mark Andrews, who was not Mark Andrews last year. Father Time looks like it caught up with him. So if Cincinnati can stay healthy and get out of September well, yeah, I think they can win the division.
So it's going to be interesting to see if Taylor can get it done and he's on the hot seat because he's another guy who's been there a number of years and the results haven't been there. I think they missed the playoffs like the last 3 years since they made the Super Bowl. So it's it's now or never for them. And we're here. We're going to, as we wind down the show here in Lloyd Vance Inside Football with Kevin Midgette and Lloyd Vance, let's start talking about quarterback battles as cut day comes. All right. So there's Minnesota. I think this one, number 9, he's cooked. I mean, everybody knows J.J. McCarthy is done. Any question on your boy Kyler Murray starting for them?
My favorite thing is to find the Kyler Murray things on Twitter and send them to your son. Like when Kyler Murray is just a little short guy, and like I've sent him like 3 different ones now. It's just like anytime I see him, I'm like Kyler Murray, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's better than JJ McCarthy. I'll even admit that. It's like JJ McCarthy is not good. I think he had one decent game last year. It was against Dallas or somebody like that. But other than that, he's a bust of a pick. Yeah, that's all Kyler.
I think Kevin O'Connell, another coach, he's not on hot seat. I think he needs to win now, though. He's seeing what Ben Johnson's doing with his Bears and everybody talking about Caleb Williams. they need to win. And you got Justin Jefferson sitting there, one of the best receivers of football. So I think Kyler Murray's going to get involved. Another kind of like non-story one. The Raiders have named Kirk Cousins. He's going to start it. And I think that's good for Mendoza. You don't want Mendoza going in there and being the most hit quarterback like Cam Ward was last year and seeing go. So any comments on the Raiders going with the veteran?
It's the right call. I mean, we've talked about it before. Andy Reid, Dougie P with Donovan McNabb. Put the veteran quarterback out there, let the kid learn a little more from the vet and everything else. And if he's got to go in, he's got to go in. But yeah, I think Mendoza should probably sit more than half the year at a certain point.
And then the last two, here comes the controversy. I know Nate was all like, "What's going on here? Shador Sanders should be the starter." I mean, I said, they're going to give Deshaun Watson the job, $230 million guaranteed contract, and making over $40 million guaranteed this year. They're going to give him the job, and yeah, wrongfully. The guy was 5 for 12 last game with an interception. Just looked terrible in that preseason game. I don't even know why I was watching it. But I mean, what's going on there in Cleveland? Watson's going to be the starter week one. And then he lashed out at the fans. You see that at the podium talking about they booed me, when I was getting carted off. He's the sour grape city.
That guy, man. He just needs a massage, Lloyd. He'll be all right. He just needs to massage his feelings. He'll be okay.
Maybe you should call Jed York for a number.
Yeah. Apparently, none of these guys have a good source. They all get busted. He's got to play. Watson's got to play. He's got the contract. You got to put him out there. But I'll go on record right now. He will not be the starting quarterback by the end of October. He'll either do something where he's suspended for a week, detrimental to the team. He's going to have an injury. Something's going to come up. That guy will not play 8 games.
First two games are on the road, and he was talking about, well, I'm treating every game, all 17, like it's a road game. It's just like, oh, I think it's week 3. They're at home against Carolina. Yeah, Carolina at home week 3. That's going to be crazy. If he's playing as bad as we think, and those fans are wound up as we think, and you're going to see all those Shador Sanders number 2 jerseys out there. They're like, we want Shador, and then he's going to throw a pick, and maybe he throws his helmet. I can't wait. It's going to be as the world turns out there. But yeah, I agree with you, Deshaun Watson. I mean, it's just like enough already. They shouldn't have signed him. And then, hey, Deshaun, you took the money. You know what I mean? You could have went to Atlanta. Really wanted him, and he took the money from Haslam there, the owner, and then the owner has his fingerprints all over this. Put him out there, Andrew Barry, general manager, and the new coach Todd Monken. I think that was contingency in terms of him taking that job. Look, you're going to play Watson, so I don't think it's going to work out. And Cleveland's going to Cleveland, so we'll see how that goes. The Browns. The last one, the Atlanta Falcons, and this is like who wants a job? Nobody. It's like Tua. I thought it was going to be Tua all along, Kevin, but man, he's been terrible. And now, Stefanski has opened the door up for Michael Penix, who's now active and practicing. But to me, they don't have a quarterback. And I know you and Nate talk about my Falcons level. Let me tell you, I don't think they're going to win the division anymore. I really don't. This team's got too many injuries, too much drama. And what do you think in terms of their starting quarterback situation?
I think there will be a quarterback that's starting for the Atlanta Falcons that's not Tua or Penix before the end of October. There will be some injury for one, and then another guy will get knocked out in another game. These two guys haven't shown me that they can stay healthy or even play well enough to stay on the field at this point. And by the way, once again, my dark horse to win that division, New Orleans. Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuck, New Orleans.
And it's interesting, Kevin, because maybe this is like the Tanner McKee spot. One of these backup ends up down there. Now, I definitely think they're another team. In the 2027 rich quarterback draft, they're going to be going after one of these young quarterbacks to come in there and change their stars because they have some talent on the Falcons, but that quarterback situation is just a mess. So we'll see. Maybe it's Trevor Siemian. He's on their roster. I mean, wow. You talk about hold your nose. Penix, Tua, and Trevor Siemian. I mean, my goodness, what an ugly group that Kevin Stefanski has there, quarterback. And I just don't see them winning a lot of games. Before
Oh,
we get out of here,
don't forget, Lloyd. Anthony Richardson might be out there also.
oh, Anthony Richardson. Yeah, I could see him in Falcons uniform.
Uh-huh.
What a mess they have with the Falcons quarterback situation. Before we get out of here, Lloyd Van Insider Football on 1029 Game Coast Sports Digital Network. Division winners, let's talk about them real quick because I know we're not going to be on Labor Day. All right, here's my division winners, NFC, and then you can just chime in. I have the Eagles, Detroit Lions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Rams.
You're almost right, Lloyd. Let's see. Let's compare. I will say the Eagles, just for the fact I don't think Dallas can stay healthy, and I don't think the other two teams are there. Giants are starting to come up. Washington, Jaden Daniels has to get another full season under his belt. So, yeah, I'll go with Philadelphia on that one. Uh, let's see. The NFC North, I'm going Chicago Bears. I think they build off of last year's success. I think you also see the rise of Rome Odunze out there with Burden now that DJ Moore is gone. Colston Loveland there, and I like the running backs that they have as well with Caleb Williams, hopefully not taking that CJ Stroud, Jordan Love track, where they had the breakout season and they fell back the next year. So I think Caleb Williams go forward with that. I already said New Orleans Saints. I like Kellen Moore. I like what Tyler Shuck was doing. I like the fact that they brought Etienne in as well. I like Chris Olave. I thought was very underrated last year. So I think in that division, nobody's great. Carolina, I think, is going to be in the mix too. So anyone's going to be in that. But I'll go with New Orleans. I'll take the dark horse on that one. And yeah, I see Seattle falling off. I don't see Darnold doing the same season that he had last year. I'll go with the Rams as well.
All right. So we agree on two, and two we differ, but yeah, I think it's going to be competitive in NFC. Now the AFC, I think you're probably maybe going to see some teams jump back in the mix. And yeah, Buffalo, I think they're going to win the AFC East after New England had such an easy schedule last year. Think Buffalo's going to win that. The Baltimore Ravens, I'll go with the AFC North because, as you said, you got the Browns there who have no rhyme or reason. The Steelers got a new coach, and you just wonder how much Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank. I'll go with Houston because of their defense to win that division. I think Jacksonville's going to take a step back this year. I think that defense still has some teeth. CJ Stroud's got to do a better job, but they do have David Montgomery now to hand the football off. But that defense has got a lot of players. And in the West, my bold prediction, I said it way back. My man's coming back, Patrick Mahomes. They're getting the offensive line back together again. Kelsey's married to Tay now. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to get it done in AFC West. So you knew it was coming. All right, start with the rebuttal.
I'm flabbergasted. I'm shocked and awed by your Chiefs pick. I knew that was coming. Let's go back to the top. I'll say Buffalo as well. New England beat them twice during the regular season last year. So once again, just for anyone who's betting a little cake, a little cabbage here, the first time Buffalo plays New England, I don't care what it is, I'm taking Buffalo because I don't see, it's just the odds of them beating them 3 times in a row. Just future me to bet on that. So yeah, I like Buffalo there. I'm going to go just to be different, and I can't stand the Ravens, to be honest. I'll take the Bengals. I say the Bungles actually come out, they don't bungle it. They become the Bengals in September. And because you got to think, this might be the last year all these guys are together too. Because at a certain point, you got to start maybe breaking people up. If it's not working at this point, if health-wise, somebody can't stay healthy. I mean, you got Higgins, Jamar Chase, Burrow, even Chase Brown. You got to get these guys working. So I'll take the Bengals as a long shot on that one. Let's see, where else are we going right here? You said the Texans. Texans have the best defense. There's no doubt about it. And actually, I like Tank Dell coming back for them as well. I think Butte was a great pickup for the Texans after losing Higgins with the torn ACL because Higgins was decent. Higgins was coming on last year. So to get Butte to replace him, even though I want to say Jacksonville just to be different, and CJ Stroud, I think, is good enough with that defense to win that division. So I'll go with the Texans on that. And for your second favorite team, Matt, I don't know what you would do with the Falcons Chiefs Super Bowl, to be honest. But for the AFC West, I'll go the Chargers. I think the Chargers come up this year with McDaniels there as the offensive coordinator. Amarian Hampton there. I think he's going to get more involved in the offense. And you got Lad McConkey's probably going to step up a little more now with Keenan Allen gone. So I'll throw the Chargers out there just to be different there.
All right. So I think we agree on two there, the Buffalo and Houston, and then we'll just see from there. And then I'll throw in my wild cards. This was tough again. I'm like, oh, geez. I'll go Dallas, Chicago, Seattle in the NFC.
I'll throw Seattle in because I think they're still good enough to get to the playoffs. Let's see. I'll go Detroit as a wild card as well. And you're not picking anyone from the South to be a wild card. So let's throw. I don't want. I'll throw. I don't want to say Dallas. I'll throw Washington in. Let's go Washington.
Ooh, they look bad, man, in terms of
Yeah,
their
they do.
roster.
Yeah.
And maybe Jaden Daniels gives them some magic again. Last year he was just so beat up, but that offensive line is scary. In the AFC wild cards, Denver. I'll go Chargers there in New England. So I'm picking three teams that were in the playoffs last year. They still have solid rosters, solid coaches, so I'm going to go with them.
I'll go New England. I'll go Baltimore with a wild card spot on that one. And I'll follow that up with I'll say Denver just to alienate your Chiefs a little more.
So you said the Chiefs don't get in at all. Oh,
No,
all
no,
right.
the
We are
band
going to
broke it
keep
up.
track of that. And, Rich Q said, saying, he thinks that I'm wrong. He says, that Mahomes love has clouded the judgment that they're just not going to get it done this year. So, and you know what? There's a lot riding on this team because they are getting a little old. Guys like Chris Jones, a little long in the tooth. Their drafts haven't been the best. Their two corners are now with the Rams. And it's just like, okay, the offensive line kind of patchwork. So, yeah, there's some question marks there. I just always feel like Andy Reid, Brett Beach, who's the GM there, they always kind of have the answers. And Spagnuolo's helped. That defense only allowed 19 points per game last year. The offense, though, has got to play better. And we'll see how this whole situation with Bieniemy is going to play out. So the Chiefs are definitely an interesting storyline. They're going to be on TV a lot. The Eagles going to be on TV a lot, so Kevin and I are going to get to watch, talk about them each week. We will recap all the games like we always do, top to bottom. So I can't wait for the 107th season to start. I know the split start drives you everybody nuts, but I just can't get enough of National Football League.
I tell you what, Lloyd, just to back up what you were saying, the thing with the Chiefs is that I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be just fine. I like Walker being added as a running back. Like you said, they weakened themselves on defense, and I have no faith in their wide receiver core. I think Kelsey will be solid at tight end, but their wide receivers with Worthy and Rice and all these plug-in guys with the off-the-field stuff and everything, I think that's their downfall, to be honest. But yeah, I can't wait for the season to start either, buddy, man. It's like we're all hyped up. It's almost like you're just waiting for it. It's like you're kind of watching the games, but you're not watching the games. You're just getting ready for it. And it's like, all right, man, let's go. We're almost there, man. We're almost there.
And it's funny. I'm watching preseason games because they're all on NFL Network. It's just like, what am I watching this for? You got a guy from Valdosta State playing out there. Good for him that he's getting his opportunity, but we all know he's going to be somewhere bouncing, checking IDs on college campus in about another week or so.
Oh yeah, it's one of those guys. He's going to be studying for his real estate license here in about a year. It's like, but I'm going to take this one swing at this, and I don't blame these guys, man. Play as long as you can, but there's few and far between that can make the NFL, and that's why you have to appreciate like the real games while they're going on.
All right, another great week here on Lloyd Manson Insider Football on 1029 Game Coast Sports Digital Network and YouTube. I appreciate Kevin joining, and we will talk to you down the road.